Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to discuss coding convention and data types in Java. But before we start, let us install first Java programming language into our computer. And for that, you could search through the internet JDK8 download so that you could download the installer. And of course, you have to create an account first before you have to access the file or the installer. Okay. So for this video, I have already downloaded the installer. So I'll just have to click on this. Okay, so here's the setup for Java. So just click next. So it's preparing to install. So let's wait for a while. Just click next and then wait until the status is full. So now let's check the destination folder. So just click next. So it's installed to the program files Java JRE 1.8.0301. So again, we will just wait for the installation of Java. Okay, so the next one. So now the JDK8 is successfully installed. So it says here that click next steps to access tutorials, API documentation, and guides. So if you want to access those documentations or guides, you can choose or click next steps or just close the window. Okay, so now let's check if we have the Java installer, or let's say the Java on our machine. So it's located in our program files, Java, and then we have the JDK and the JRE. Okay, so now we have it. And then the next one is to paste it on our environment variables. So in order for us to do that, go to Drive C, click Program Files, choose Java folder, click on JDK 1.8.0301, and then click bin, and then copy this link here by clicking this address, Control C on this address, and then right click this PC, and then click on Properties. A new window will pop up, and then on the left side or right side, sorry, uh, choose Advanced System Settings, and then a new window will appear. So for other operating systems, like for example um, Windows 8 or Windows 7, you could right click on this PC and then click on Properties. It will show you this system properties already. Okay, so after showing this window, we'll just need to click Environment Variables and then locate Path, and then click on Edit, and then click New, and then paste the link for the bin folder, and then click OK, and then OK. So we do that in order for us to create Java files in any directory. Say for example, if you want to run your program on the desktop folder or downloads folder or documents folder, any folder created on your uh, personal computer. So if you didn't do that, or for example, if you didn't paste the bin folder to our environment variables, so you could only run your program inside the Java folder. So that's its limitation. But since we have already pasted the link of the bin folder to our system settings, so we're able to run programs even though it's not inside the Java folder. Okay, so to check, let's try to access the CMD. So type on CMD or command prompt and then type java, mean to say Java compiler, space dash version, and it should show you the version of the Java installed on your computer. So in my case, it is Java 1.8.0.301. So I mean to say it's already accessible, or the compiler is runs on our can be accessed in our computer now. Okay, so let's move on to our coding conventions. So here are some coding conventions that you have to follow when using Java. So when naming classes, so the first letter of each word should be capitalized. Okay, so just like this title case. So the first letter in title is capitalized, and also the first letter in case, which is C. Okay, so methods, when naming a method, or let's say behavior, it should be in camel case and ends with a pair of parentheses. Okay, and then it should be something like this: camel case sample. So the first letter of the first word is small, and then the rest of the word, their first letter is capitalized, and then it ends with a parenthesis. Okay, so it's like a function in Microsoft Excel. So I'm not sure if you have already encountered using functions in Excel. So we're in, for example, we use equal sign to a cell and then type sum if you want to sum two numbers, two or more. Okay, and then we have open and close parentheses, wherein we put all the numbers that we wanted to add inside this parentheses. So it's also the same as to our method. So this has a something like similarities from our methods to sum or any functions in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so here we have the variables or fields. So these are the attributes. If we're talking about the UML, so these are the attributes. So when naming a variable, it should also be in a camel case without parentheses. Okay, so it's like method, but it doesn't have an open and close parentheses. So when we say variables class, those are the containers of a data. Say for example, during your high school days, when creating a variable, we say that let x is equal to 5. So the constant here, or the value, is 5, and then the variable is x. Okay, so x represents the value 5. So and then y is equals to, for example, 3. So the value here, or the constant, is 3, and then the variable is y. So if we're going to add x plus y, so we will get 8, because the variable x represents 5, or the value of x is 5, and the value of y is 3. So we assign these values to our variables, and that's why we got 8. Okay, so it's just a container of a value or constant. Okay, so it doesn't only or it's not only limited to numbers, it could also contain text or characters, okay, or any other type of data. Okay, So when the method is created, the method body should be indented after the open curly brace. So something like this. Okay, so we have a keyword class, and then the name of the class, sample class, and then we have a parenthesis here or curly braces, and then it has a public static void main string array args. Okay, so let us discuss this first. So notice the name of the class, sample class. The main method is one, and how the indentation takes place whenever there's an open curly brace. Okay, so here class, in Java, we name our class based on the naming convention. So we capitalize the first letter for each word. Okay, so that's why in sample class we have this we have this naming convention. So class here is a keyword, so I mean to say you cannot use this as a name of a variable or name of a class. Say for example class. So you cannot do that. Okay. So here we have the main method. Let's remove this line. So the main method is the first thing that our compiler looks for when running our program. So I mean to say all the programs starts from the main method. Okay, so this is the actual implementation of it. You cannot change anything to it. Meaning to say once you run, so for example you created five Java files and then you run it as a single application, your compiler will look for the main method and then run it first before the other. Okay, so this is a method signature. So you cannot change it. Well, if you change it, therefore the compiler would think that there is a main method that is separate from this one. Okay, so it would look for a main method with this kind of signature. Okay, so that's it. So meaning to say this indentation here takes place whenever there's an open curly brace. So as you can see, after naming the class, we have a open curly brace, and then the next line would be indented. And then again, after the implementation of the method signature, we have again an open curly brace. So the next line would be indented again. Okay. So this is just a simple example of printing. This is method body. Okay. So let's have our first program or print hello world. So open your text editor, Notepad, Sublime, or etc. and type the following code. Okay. So for now, I think I'm not sure if you have already installed a text editor. Let me check my. Okay, so I only have Notepad++. I'm not sure if I have a Visual Studio Code. So I don't have. Okay. So let me check again the Notepad. So I have a Notepad here. So I could check or I could code here in Notepad. So let me copy this code. So let's save this as sample class. So the name of the file should also be the same of the name of the class inside the implementation of your Java. Let's say on our downloads folder. Okay. The name is sample class .java. So it ends with a .java file extension. Okay. So save it and then type class sample class and then enter. Open curly brace, enter again, tab, public static void main, and then string, open and close square bracket, and then args, and then open and close curly brace, enter again. So let's tab it here. It should be aligned here so that you'll be able to check if this is already ended with a curly brace. So whenever you put an open curly brace, it should be partnered with a closed curly brace. So the open curly brace here and the close are the ones that enclose the implementation of a code. So for example, in sample class, the implementation of this is inside of this sample class we have a main method. So inside the main method we have printing, let's say a printing function, or not actually a function, it's a method that prints hello world. Okay, so system.out that print ln uh, hello world, and then it ends in a semicolon. Okay, so how many open curly brace we have? So one, two, and then how many closing curly brace we have? We have only one, so I mean to say we lack one more of closed curly brace, so we have to put it in here. So it should be aligned in our open curly brace. So this one, the partner of this open curly brace is this one, and then this method here, the open curly brace here, is partnered to this closing curly brace. And then inside the implementation of this main method is to print hello world. Okay, so how are we going to run this? Okay, it says here that um, to save it as sample class.java. Notice that the name of the class containing the main method is the same as the name of your file. And then to compile your program, open the command line and go to the destination folder of your Java file and type java sample class.java. Okay, so it should generate a file sample class.class on the same folder. And then number 5, to run your program, just type java sample class. Okay, so let's try it. So I think it's inside the downloads folder. Okay, so we have the sample class.java. So a shortcut for us to go to the destination folder of this using CMD is to click on this address bar and then type CMD and then hit enter. Okay, so now we are already in the CMD or command line, and then at the downloads folder. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do is to type the javac sample class.java. Okay, so javac space sample class dot java and then hit enter. So it doesn't have an error. So if there is, definitely it would display it here. So for example, I forgot to put a semicolon at the end of this instruction. So let's save it. So once you run it again, this compiler, it would throw an error. It says here expected semicolon on this line. So it points an arrow here that you should put a semicolon on it. Okay, so we should put a semicolon on it and then try to run it again. So every time that you change something on your code, you have to save it and then run it again. Okay, so after successfully compiling the file, the next thing to do, it says here that it should generate a sample class that class on the same folder. So let's see. Oops, wait, doesn't work. Let me check the downloads folder. So it generates a sample class that class file. Okay, so this class file is the converted or the machine code that is generated after compiling the sample class.java. So I mean to say we have already converted the our code or the human readable source code into a machine readable code, which is the that class file. Okay, so in order for us to run the program after creating or after generating the sample class that class, is to type the Java and then the name of the class, which is, in our case, sample class. Okay, and then hit enter. And now we have hello world. Okay, so that's it. So the next thing to do is we have here a variable and data types. So variable is a container of a data, just like what I have said a while ago, and this data can be classified into different data types. So here are some data type and data. So we have byte, so negative 128 to 127. Short, negative 32,768 to 32,768. So int, this is I think negative 2,147,483,648 up to it's positive until 647. And then long, okay, that's too long to read. And then we have the float, so it's a decimal value. So double is also a decimal value. It's a big decimal value. It could support a higher number of floating point values. And then we have boolean, which only has true or false as data. And then string, so those are the characters or symbol inside double quote. So as you could see here in our code, this is a string because it's enclosed in double quotation. So meaning to say the compiler would only treat it as a text. So it doesn't have a special meaning, unlike this strings here or this words here. So public, this is a access modifier, and then this main method here, meaning to say this is the name of the method. Okay, and then well, of course, this sample class here and class are some of the keywords that we use. So sample class is the name of your class, and then class is also a keyword. Okay, so those are the characters or symbol inside a double quotes. So this is just a plain text, doesn't have or doesn't hold any uh, it doesn't have any special meaning at all. Okay, it's just a plain text. And then same goes for the character, so it's just a single character inside a single quote. Okay, so we have here a example or example code of declaring variables. Okay, so let's try this one. So let me copy this. So there are 6 systems out. Okay, so let's try to print this. There should be 6 hello worlds now. Then compile it again. So after saving, after modifying your code, you have to save it and then compile it and then run it again. Okay, so we have 6 hello worlds. Now let's try to declare some variables. So we have int, so that's an integer. Grade is equals to 98. So I mean to say the variable grade has a value 98, so it's an integer. The next one is float. So let's say general weighted average is equals to 1.75 f. So I mean to say it's a floating point value. That's why we have included f at the end of the value. The next one is car. So the section. So it's equal to a, section A. And then string name. So the name of the student. So it's enclosed in a double quotation. So it's John. And then boolean. So in naming a variable in boolean, it's like asking a question. Is it enrolled or has a subject or has next or has a value. Okay, so it's like asking a question: is it enrolled? Is John enrolled? So it's either true or false, or it's like yes or no. Okay, so Boolean is enrolled. Okay, so it's either true or false. Okay, so for this case, we have true. Okay, now let's try to print this out. Okay, so my name is space, and then at the last part or at the end of the double or closing, not actually closing, before the closing parenthesis, we have the plus name. So I'll explain it later. And then my section, then plus section. And then my GWA is, wait, I should put is here. And then my highest grade is, then plus grade, and then my name is plus name again. Oops, plus name. Okay, so Boolean will be discussed next time. So let's just end it in here. Okay, so since we changed something on our code, just like this one, we're going to save it again. So we're just gonna save this and then compile it using the Java sample class.java. So hit enter. So it doesn't have any error. So let's try to run it again. So now we have an output. My name is John. My section is A. My GWA is 1.75. Wait, let me put some space here. Okay. So my GWA is 1.75. My highest grade is 98. And then again, my name is John. So the plus symbol here is called the concatenation. Okay. So if you're going to add numbers, we're also using plus sign. But since we're talking about a string and a variable, so it would only connect these two words here, the my name is and also the name. So what's the value of the name? So based from our variable, name is equal to John. So that's why my name is John. So it only connects these two words here. My name is and also the value of name. Okay? So that's it for our example. Okay. So in this example, we declared variable grade with int data type. So the data type of grade is integer. Variable GWA with float data type. Variable section with char data type. Variable name with string data type. Variable is enrolled with boolean data type. So the plus symbol after each string indicates concatenation. So it means that the variable will be appended and treated as a string. Okay? So remember, if you are going to add numbers, so the left hand side and the right hand side should be a number. So if you're going to use it as a concatenation, mean to say one of this, one of the data, it's either from the left side or the right side of the plus sign, is actually a string. Okay, so that's the time that it would become a concatenation. Okay, so that's all for now. Thank you for watching.